Imagine the ultimate symbol of liberty. The man who punched Hitler in the face, who never stops doing what's right, and who represents the very best in all of us. Now imagine that all of it, every decade of heroism and every sacrifice, was a lie. In 2016, Marvel did the unthinkable. With just 2 words, Steve Rogers didn't just betray the Avengers, he shattered the hearts of an entire generation of fans. No clones, no imposters, and most terrifyingly, no ordinary mind control. Earth's greatest hero looked into the eyes of betrayal and said, "Hail Hydra." Many thought it was just a marketing stunt or a passing delusion, but what followed was the most perfect, calm, and cruel plan for domination ever seen in comics. The Captain didn't just use his fists to win, he used the trust of every friend to dismantle the world from within, turning hope into a regime of absolute terror. Today, here at Fantasy Realm HQ, we are diving deep into the mind of the superior Captain America to understand how the Sentinel of Liberty became the greatest dictator the Marvel Universe has ever known. Prepare yourself, because the history you know has just been rewritten. To understand how the unthinkable happened, we must forget everything we know about classic mind control. There was no hypnosis, no high-tech brainwashing, and not even an imposter taking the hero's place. What happened to Steve Rogers was a surgery on reality itself. It all began with the Red Skull and an entity called Kobik, a sentient cosmic cube that took the form of a child. The Skull, with his usual cunning, didn't simply order the Captain to change sides. He did something far more perverse. He convinced a divine and innocent consciousness that Hydra was, in fact, a benevolent and necessary force for the world. Kobik, wanting only to please, rewrote Steve Rogers' past from his very childhood. For this new Steve, he was never the scrawny kid from Brooklyn who became an American symbol out of idealism. In his new memory, he was recruited by Hydra at a young age, trained as an elite sleeper agent, and sent to become Captain America only as a decades-long cover story. This is what makes this version so terrifying. He isn't acting against his own will. He believes, with all his soul and every fiber of his being, that Hydra is the only path to world peace and order. He possesses the same unwavering determination and the same sense of morality as the original Steve. But now those gifts are at the service of a totalitarian regime. The man we knew was erased from existence by cosmic manipulation, and what remained in his place was the most loyal and dangerous soldier a dark empire ever had at its disposal. With his past rewritten and absolute loyalty to Hydra, Steve Rogers began the most dangerous game in Marvel history, the Silent Ascension. Unlike other villains who try to conquer the world with armies and noise, the Captain used the most valuable asset he possessed, the blind faith everyone placed in him. He was appointed director of SHIELD with full executive powers, essentially being handed the keys to the United States defenses legally and democratically. While the heroes were busy with minor crises, Steve was positioning the pieces for checkmate. He didn't just want to win, he wanted to isolate every possible threat. In a single day of coordinated chaos, he activated the planetary defense shield, trapping Captain Marvel and Earth's most powerful heroes in deep space with no way back. Simultaneously, he used dark force energy to envelop the entire city of New York in an impenetrable dome of darkness, taking street-level heroes like Daredevil and Doctor Strange out of the fight. In a matter of hours, without firing a single shot at his friends, Steve Rogers had deactivated the Avengers. When the dust settled, Washington, D.C. was under Hydra's command, and the world woke up under a new flag. It was the ultimate demonstration that Captain America is the most brilliant strategist on the planet, and that, when he decides to be the villain, there is no force on Earth capable of predicting his next move. Democracy didn't fall with an explosion. It fell with a handshake from the man everyone trusted. With the resistance out of the way, the world met the true face of the new regime, the secret empire. Steve Rogers abandoned the iconic red, white, and blue to take on a green and gold uniform, armor that radiated authority and fear. But the most impactful image of this period, the one that made the world lose all hope, wasn't an act of violence, but a test of worthiness. During the height of the crisis, Steve Rogers approached Thor's hammer, Mjölnir, and before allies and enemies alike, he lifted it. To those watching, the message was clear and devastating. If the Hydra captain was worthy of the power of a god, then perhaps his cause was truly right. This was the final psychological blow. Under his command, Hydra transformed the United States into a police state of absolute efficiency. There was no more crime on the streets, but there was also no more freedom. Most disturbing was seeing figures who always fought for justice, like the Punisher, decide to side with him. Frank Castle believed that under Steve's command, the world would finally have the order that the chaos of heroes never allowed. The Secret Empire wasn't just a military occupation. It was a proposal for a world where crime was non-existent at the cost of the human soul. Steve Rogers ruled not as a classic tyrant who delights in suffering, but as a stern father who truly believes the whip is necessary to keep the family safe. Hydra's utopia was real, cold, and perfectly organized, and for the first time in history, the remaining heroes weren't just fighting a villain, but a system that a part of the population was starting to accept. But where there is tyranny, there will always be resistance, even if it is born of absolute despair. While the Secret Empire consolidated its power, the surviving heroes became fugitives in their own land. The focus of the rebellion fell on the shoulders of the Black Widow, who took on a dark role. She knew the Steve they loved wouldn't return with words, so she trained a new generation of heroes, like Miles Morales and Ms. Marvel, to do what was necessary. The tension reached its peak when a prophecy suggested that Spider-Man, Miles Morales, was destined to kill Captain America on the steps of the Capitol. The atmosphere was that of an inevitable Greek tragedy. While the Black Widow sacrificed her own life trying to prevent a young hero from becoming a murderer, the final piece of the puzzle emerged from the shadows of reality. Through the remaining fragments of the cosmic cube, the pure and original memory of the true Steve Rogers, the man he was before Kobik's manipulation, managed to manifest a physical form. The final confrontation wasn't just a battle between armies, but a metaphysical duel between two ideals. On one side, the perfect dictator who believed absolute order was the only salvation. On the other, the soldier who knew that freedom, however chaotic, was the only worthy path for humanity. The moment the true Captain America returns to face his corrupted version is one of the most cathartic moments in recent Marvel history. It was the end of a nightmare that seemed eternal, but the victory left a trail of destruction and a question that would echo for years. How could the world ever trust the shield again after being crushed by it? The impact of the Secret Empire didn't end when the Hydra captain was defeated. What this story left behind was a deep scar on the soul of the Marvel Universe, and a provocation that goes far beyond the comic book pages. How far are we willing to sacrifice our individual freedom in exchange for a promise of absolute security? The Hydra Steve Rogers wasn't a cartoon villain who wanted to destroy the world out of malice. He was a man who believed free will was a mistake, and that the only way to end human suffering was through total and perfectly planned control. The great tragedy wasn't just his betrayal, but the fact that under his command, the world actually seemed to work. Crime fell, wars stopped, but human dignity was the price paid. When the true Steve Rogers returned and reclaimed the shield, he didn't just inherit his glory back, but also the fear and distrust of a people who saw their greatest hero become their greatest oppressor. This saga teaches us that power, when left unquestioned, is the most dangerous tool in existence, especially when it's in the hands of someone we are certain is good. The shield now carries the weight of knowing that even the most incorruptible of men can become a monster if reality is distorted enough. But what about you? What do you think of this arc? Did Marvel go too far in tarnishing the Captain's legacy, or is this one of the bravest stories ever written? Leave your opinion in the comments because I really want to know what you think about this dilemma between order and freedom. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the dark side of comics, don't forget to subscribe here to Fantasy Realm HQ for more analyses like this. We'll see you in the next video.